Once in a while, I get sent a song to play on where the writing is so strong that the parts and the playing are already laid out for me and it becomes totally effortless. The only thing I really have to deal with is making sure that the drums sound awesome. This is one of those songs. Let's check it out. This is a song called Dream Less Traveled, and it was written and performed by a group of musicians who all collaborated to make it happen. They are a duo from Nashville named The Young Fables, an artist from California named Jennifer Aiden, and another artist from California whose name is Bevan Hamilton. Bevan and I have been friends for the last 10 years, and she was the one that pulled me into this project. Before we get too much further, I don't want to neglect to mention that this song is going to be used somewhat as a fundraiser for all of the fires that happened here in California a few months back. So I will be including some links in the description below. Please have a look at those and consider giving something if you feel so inclined. I'd like to take you through the song and talk about all the choices I made, especially for the instruments and in particular the snare drum that I chose. We're going to talk a bit in detail about that one. And also I want to take you under the hood in the Pro Tools session and sort of show you how I process things and prepared this song to send off. This is my 80s scratch kit, 13, 16, 22, and I added a 10-inch tom from my Pearl 70s fiberglass kit. The snare drum is my Chris Heuer built Bell Brass. Heads are all Remo fiber skin on the resonant side, and on the batter side of the bass drum is a Renaissance P3. Tom heads are combination of Ambassador on the 10 and Emperors on the 13 and 16, and then control sound on the snare. You'll also see that I'm using a good old Remo plastic ring, and then the snare weight brass, which is absolutely my favorite dampening device these days for snare. Sometimes it's just on there by itself, sometimes there's a ring underneath it. It works really well. Artisan hats, 15 Sabian artisan hats. My 19-inch Legacy Crash. And then these two babies are 60s or maybe early 70s 602s, a 22 and a 20. The overheads are Perlman TM2s. And then in the middle there is an Electro Voice RE15. Toms are Heiserman Type 19s on all three of them. These mics down here, first we have a Beyer M88, which is, it's probably about 2.5, 3 inches in, pointing at the batter side. And then this is another Eric Heiserman mic. This is a H47 FET. And finally, coming out into the hallway here, Coles 4038s in a Blumline array, which is really the key to my room sound. And you can hear this out here is very live. It's how I get this smaller room of mine to sound huge. Okay, time to talk snare drums. This drum right here is the drum that was used on this song. As you can see, it looks a lot like an original Tama Bell Brass. It is actually a shell made by a company in Turkey called Guven, and we took, the man on the badge here, Chris Heuer, and I, stole all the hardware from, not stole, but we took the hardware from an original Tama Imperial Starr steel snare drum from the early 80s. Relatively inexpensive and easy to come by. And it's the exact same hardware as was on the original Bell Brass drum. So we took that and we threw it onto this drum here, and it sounds like a beast. It does everything from what you hear in this track, which I would consider to be sort of more or less medium with some dampening, but it can You can crank it up and leave it wide open and have it do sort of the Nirvana thing. And you can also take it even lower than I had it and dampen it even more and have kind of a really fat, beefy sounding snare drum. So thanks so much to Chris Heuer, because this thing is something that gets used all the time on tracks for me now. And it does so much more than you think it can do. All right, let's have a look at this Pro Tools session. We'll kind of go through everything here, and also just want to introduce my studio partner over here named Bamba. Say hi, Bamba. Let's just listen a little bit down from the top of the song. We'll listen up to the end of the first chorus. I am muting vocals because it was requested that we not use these because they were scratch vocals. Everything else here is officially part of the track. So let's just have a listen. Pre-chorus. Chorus. All right, let's just dive in here a little bit on the first verse and listen to a little bit of drums soloed, and we've got the band muted, so all you're hearing is the drums. Now, I want to start by saying this track has no plug-in reverb whatsoever, so everything you're hearing that's ambience is coming from the outside room. Let's listen to a little bit of the track by itself for a second. So you can hear it's a fairly ambient sound. I'm leaning pretty heavily on the room mics at this point, which we're going to listen to in a second. And also there's another couple of little contributing factors to that. Okay, and before that, let's listen to a little bit of, just a little bit of these individual mics by themselves for a second. So here's my inside kick drum. And on that, because I knew I had an outside mic going, I high passed, and that high pass is at about 84. So I'm cutting off the subby lows and a little bit higher even than the subby lows. And then with this SSL plugin, I'm adding a little bit of attack. I'm adding like a fair amount of attack, actually, 6 or so dB at around 3.5K. That's giving us a little bit of presence. So if we listen without that for a sec, this is with it. It's a little darker, it's a little less present, a little less in your face. Okay. Kick out. Here I experimented with a little bit of a low pass, but decided against that. I kind of liked the off-axis sound it was getting, sort of contributing something that made it sound a little bit broader. And then I'm giving this a nice boost right around 40 hertz because I wanted it to have this nice beefy low. It felt appropriate for this song. This is a pretty modern rock song, so I thought it sounded good for that. Snare top. This is our amazing bell brass drum here. No EQ. Snare bottom. Nice sizzle. Feels like something that helps with this song. It also adds some snap to the overall sound of the snare. They add up really nicely together. And actually, while we're on it, we should back up and listen to the two kick drum mics for a brief second. So this is the two kick drum mics by themselves together. outside alone, inside alone, and together. Really nice combination of everything. It really feels like a drum. Overheads. No EQ. On my outboard gear, I'm pulling out a little bit of, I think I have it set to pull out a couple of dB at 500 hertz, just kind of pulling out some of the muddiness that occurs in my particular space here. Okay, we're gonna get to these next to the rooms and crush last. Let's just have a listen to, I wanna just play a tom fill for you guys so you can hear the 3 toms together. This is the 10-inch Pearl concert tom and the 2 Gretsch toms together. They kind of sound like an item. They really do sound good together. And what I like about them together is that the high tom kind of pokes out a little bit more. It's a little bit more open. I purposely didn't have it as dampened, but all 3 drums have a really nice attack to them, so they really do work excellently together. And then finally, the most boring mic on the whole kit. Well, snare bottom's pretty boring too, but those are some nice hats though, those Artisan 15s. Really nice hats. Okay, now, here's the thing that I think is contributing. Well, there's 2 things that I think are contributing to the sound of fullness on this kit. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to play you some kit just in the room without these 2 important items. Now, to me, that sounds pretty decent. That's the sound of the kit in this room. This room is well tuned. Just hear that tom fill off the top. All right, but now let's listen really quickly to these 2 individually. Here's what I call my crush mic. This is the RE15 that's above the kit, mono mic right above, basically right above my head. And I have it, we'll look at that in a sec, but let's just listen to it. Definitely wanted to high pass this because I don't need to distort all that extra low end. It's just gonna, and you can see too, just from the reading here, that that particular mic doesn't go down too far anyway, but I wanted to make sure we didn't have a lot of low rumble being distorted or anything like that. So there's that. And then here's the real deal with this sound. It's the decapitator, and I got the punish button on, and I'm at 6. I mean, I'm really pushing it here. And, but I've got it down in the dark zone as far as the sound goes. The low cut is also up fairly high. And I've kind of pulled back on the high cut as well. Okay? I mean, that's dramatically different. This is without it. Aside from the volume difference. Okay? Now, room mics. You gotta love Cole's 4038s. They have that really kind of syrupy, thick lows and low mids, and it just has such a nice, beautiful, punchy sound to them, and they're mellow and dark, so they don't get too brash. Like if we jump to the chorus here, it's not too out of control. Can blend that in really nicely. Also high passing at 40. That's more to get rid of the subs. I left a fair amount of the low end in there. I just didn't want a lot of rumbly stuff. So now let's listen to everything together. I'm gonna run that top part with out and then with. Let's go back here. Big difference. All right. Now, the only other factor here, I have a bus that I label PC kit, which is parallel compression. You can see that down here. And I am running some kick in, some kick out, snare top, and the overheads to the PC kit. And I've got the Unfair Child going, and I have this cool compressor from Boz Audio Labs or Boz Digital Labs, Boz Digital Labs. And it's called the Plus 10 dB. And it is an imitation of an old Compex limiter, which is famous for being on the track When the Levee Breaks. Alone, that parallel compression channel sounds like this. Now in the context, now muted and off. So you can see it's adding quite a bit of snap to the kick and the snare, as a matter of fact. It's really pushing everything forward, making everything feel more in your face. Let's listen to that in context with the tracks from the top. And I'm gonna mute it and unmute it. Now it's on, off. Nowhere near the same impact, nowhere near. Now I'm gonna mute these. Sorry. Without the rooms, nothing special, right? Something else I was given, just so you can hear it, was, this is the reference track I was given. And that's what I ended up with. Back to the reference track. So ultimately, I feel like I stayed pretty close to what the original demo track had in it, while making it feel obviously more human and, you know, digging in a little bit in certain places the way that it you can't possibly do when you're programming drums. And but what was nice about having their reference was it really gave me an idea of what they were looking for with this song, and all I had to do was take that and bring myself to it. And like I said before, the song is such a great song that really made it easy for me. A couple of things was I just, I chose to simplify the kick drum pattern because I felt like, just meat and potatoes works really great in a song like this. Just in general, I tried to build the song as it went along. I chose to take all the different sections that had fill-in areas and expand them and make them more interesting as time went on to give a performance. And that's part of what I'm trying to do when I do these songs, is make it feel like a performance, not like somebody could have taken 8 bars of my drums and looped it over and over again, because then what's the point? I want to give them something that only a human can do, and in one take ideally. And if I have to, comp sections together once in a while or fly in fills from another take, I might do that. But generally speaking, I try to give people complete takes. It's something I really enjoy doing, and I feel like it's still really valuable. Bamba, what did you think, buddy? I'm not sure what he thinks, but that's okay. I love having him here, and he loves to be here, I think. One thing that gets reinforced for me time and time again is that when you have a great song, it's an absolute joy to play, and it seems to take no effort whatsoever. As the old expression goes, the song plays itself. I'll see you guys next time.